in here from Portland, Oregon. Yeah. Ground Zero Lounge happening every week here at Dante's. We start actually around 8:30 or so. We like to get everybody their seats around 8 o'clock. And the show is broadcast on the internet. We are seen, thanks to Bill Coons here. Give him a round of applause for videotaping the shows on Google. In fact, it looked really good last week in the show we did about food sources and about all the things we talked about last week. I did say that we were going to have a food inspector here this week. He canceled the last one. He is coming next week, though. It's going to be part 2 of what we were talking about, the agricultural aspects of what's going on in the world. For those of you that don't know, last week we did talk a little bit about the contamination of food sources, foodstuffs, things of that nature. And I had talked about how when we have these things go on, we start to see confidence loss in consumers. And if you notice, the consumer index now says that consumer confidence has now gone down 20%. Or it's down to 20%, rather. I don't know if it can go any lower than 20%, but it can go down. And here we are at 20%. A number of other things, too. A while back, we did a show about Abraham, Osama, and Obama. We talked about how a lot of the problems would be blamed on the Jews. There was an article that just came out recently that says, yes, the banking problem is the Jews' problem. It's Jews' fault, which I find very interesting and funny, since we did bring all these things up in the lounge, which only brings up the notion that the Ground Zero Lounge is relevant, and we do bring up the story before the story happens. So you can applaud that if you want to. It's kind of like magic. Do it right here. Do magic right here on the show. Go ahead, Sarah.
I just wanted to add that I sent Clyde that article, and the thing is, the article didn't say everything was the Jews' fault. It said a survey had said that a large percentage of people say that things are the Jews' fault, which is even scarier.
Yeah, well, anti-Semitism, it's like we brought up about 3 weeks ago, that a lot of this stuff is going to be generated. There's going to be scapegoating, and there's going to be people who will be blamed for this type of thing. We start seeing in the news, don't be too surprised if you see these things transpiring, because we start to see these effects going on. Little storms here, little storms there, little storms here. We're kind of like weathermen, okay? We predict what might happen and where the storms might arrive. Now, no one talks bad about the weatherman when he's wrong. They just say, well, that was just kind of a mistake. You're raining on my picnic, so screw you. I'm not raining on anyone's picnic. I'm just trying to keep you informed of what's happening. And as I can see it, and many of you, I've said last week, I said, listen, the food sources are going to be cut back. In fact, we had Brian Kennedy here last week, got up on stage, talked about the situation in California where there's going to be no water that's going to be going to the crops in California. It's all had to do with the food sources we talked about. Arnold Schwarzenegger has now declared California a drought-stricken area, and yes, you're going to be paying a lot of money for produce that's coming from California, if any comes from California at all. And we did encourage you to start planting your gardens. We did encourage you to start doing things at home, start working things out for yourself, get foods in your houses that you can have on hand just in case stores run out of the food. And it can happen. We're starting to see shelves not being stocked now because people just can't afford to drive them truck-wise, nor can they put them by train, so they just sit in warehouses and rot. They get salmonella in the peanut butter and it kills a number of people. See, this is what we're going to see a lot of. And it's because of a poor economy. People are not going to move unless they're going to get the money in order to move it. Because money is a unit of measure. It's a piece of energy that moves things. And when there is no money to move things, you start seeing people doing crazy things. And that's exactly what we're going to talk about tonight. Some craziness that I was noticing that I kind of put off for a little bit, but since the gentleman decided not to show up about the food thing, it's going to show up next week, it's going to be a really good show, I decided to move forward with another idea. The show tonight's called Genome 666. The Project Purity. And something that, you know, this has been weighing on me how many people remember the story that was in the news a while back about a woman named Nadia Suleiman, who gave birth to 8 children by applause? Anybody? I hear some booing. Can you tell me why you're booing? Just come up. Now, by the way, these microphones are here for you, so if you want to say why you're booing, I want to hear it. Why are you booing this?
Nobody should have 8 children.
Nobody should have 8 children.
Especially a single mom who already has children.
Okay, do everybody agree that no one should have 8 children? Okay. Go ahead and get on the microphone.
14.
I know, you're getting ahead of yourself. I'll get to that in a minute.
Oh, okay, yeah. Okay, you're going to explain that?
Sure, I'm going to explain that. You bet. Okay, Nadia Suleiman gave birth to 8 children. The birth of the octuplets has raised controversies regarding their mother's decision to have a large family without any means of independent income, and the physician's decision to help her get these children, okay? It's not just her here, okay? They took 6 or 7, they took all these embryos and they shoved them in this woman, and they took, okay? And how did she pay for it if she didn't have the money to do it anyway? Someone, this is a conspiracy here, someone did this on purpose, okay? They did this on purpose. Yes, somebody's applauding. They did it on purpose to send a message. And I believe I know what that message is, and I'm going to get to that tonight. Suleiman also, according to Sarah, and which is true, she had 6 other children from a former in vitro fertilization. So not only is this fertilization a bad thing because the doctor gave her this stuff, but she had 6 other kids that she has to take care of. Now they're being cared for by the grandmother because there's just too damn many kids, 14 kids all at once, right? And the question is, why has a woman in poverty been allowed to have 14 babies using the expensive reproduction technology? Well, here's an idea as to why. We have 8, what's that? Student loans, yeah, give her a hand. Student loans, that's cute. You know, 8 more children. It's just crazy. And welfare, too. I'm sure she's getting some dividends for that as well. You're right. I'm very sure of that. Yeah, well, okay. But that takes a while, though, right? It's going to take a while for the student loans. By the way, if you want to say something, it's brilliant. Come on the mic, it'll be great. Because we're broadcasting. No, nobody's going to get you. I mean, there's pretty good stuff there. So, you know, keep putting the good stuff out there. It'll be awesome. So anyway, here we have this situation going on. It's being investigated by the American Society for Reproductive Medicine. The controversy swirling around this whole thing is reproductive ethics, but there is a story behind the story that I want to get to tonight, and it's going to really get a little spooky. And maybe not, because I'm sure a lot of you feel, okay, I want to ask a couple of you, if you want to volunteer your feelings. This woman had 8 children. I want you to come to the microphone. I want you to yell it out if you have the courage to do this. What do you think should happen to Natalia? What do you think should happen to people like Natalia? Does anybody want to volunteer their feelings as to what should be done? Am I going to stand here and beg you? What do you think should be done to this woman? And I want to hear some information, because the reason why I want to know is because I want to know what the overall feeling is about this woman having 8 children. We already heard the booze. We already heard all these other things. Yes?
She should be publicly chastised by radio personalities.
Is that like me? Go ahead.
Actually, that's not too different from what I was going to say, because if you start putting legal ramifications on that, then you get into a whole big brother and control of reproduction system and all that.
Really?
Social stigmatism is much better than actual legal.
How many people believe that women like Natalia should be sterilized by applause? I thought so. You guys, you chicken. Come on up and say you want her sterilized. Go ahead, Fred.
What about the poor SOB that's the father? Should they always part temporary?
I have no idea. They're still having controversy with the father. Okay, here we have somebody that's going to say this.
Well, I heard that one of her, or more than one of her first original 6 children were disabled.
Yeah, I'll get to that too. Yes, one's autistic and a couple others have some problems.
I am the father of a disabled child.
Right.
And I have to say that in itself is a pretty darn every minute of the day issue.
Mm-hmm.
And for someone like that to kind of go on to have 8 additional children,
Right.
to me is a very selfish thing.
It is selfish. I agree. You gonna say something? Go ahead.
Greetings, programs. I would love to marry her. I love kids.
Oh, okay. Good for you. Okay, go ahead.
I have to say you all frighten me. I've always believed that if I support my right not to have any children, I have to support her right to do that, because support of reproductive freedom goes both ways. I'm sorry, I don't have to like it, and I don't, but I do believe it is so.
Okay. I give her a hand, because I believe that too. But it's interesting to know that when I said we should sterilize her, you guys applauded loudly. See, with the birth of Nadia Suleiman's octuplets, we're confronting a perfect storm for eugenic outcry. Okay? When you guys all applauded to sterilize this woman, you're all into the idea of eugenics.
Yep.
So applaud that. Yeah, some of you. I mean, that's fine. I mean, if you want to, You're all part of it. I mean, you do a Google search on this woman and immediately you hear things like she got death threats, she got all this stuff. It's irresponsible, I agree. It's selfish, I agree. I don't believe we should get into the slippery slope of sterilizing poor people. But that's what we're getting into. Suleiman is single, disabled, unemployed, on food stamps. Of her 14 children, there is one autistic child, plus 2-year-old twins, plus 4 other kids ages 3 to 7, plus 8 newborns ranging from 1 to 3 pounds. Suleiman also is Iraqi, which has also fueled hatred of a different sort. What a perfect example of the perfect Hegelian dialectic with problem, reaction, solution. If you're observing consensus opinion, egoistic natalists are the problem. The reaction is to sterilize breeders that have no regard for the burden they place on society or the environment. That is the prevailing attitude on the internet regarding Natalia Suleiman. A lot of people are crying for eugenics. Suleiman has unleashed the fear of breeding run amok, irresponsible breeders, which is one of the components of the eugenics argument. It is not a coincidence that this reproductive monster has been unleashed when you realize that the argument for population controls have been proposed as solution for worldwide sustainability. That's something you're going to hear a lot about. Not here in America as of yet, because you know worldwide sustainability by another form. It's called global warming. Okay? Worldwide sustainability and global warming are the same thing. Just that we call it something else. Okay? We call it global warming, we call it climate change. It is the solution for worldwide sustainability. Last week, we briefly talked about Agenda 21. It's a comprehensive plan of action to be taken globally, nationally, and locally by organizations of the United Nations and various governments to review ways the world can be a better place for sustainable development. We discussed that sustainable development of the globe consists of a number of suggestions to improve the impact of the environment. First, in the agenda, it said to establish a group of consensus crises and solutions that include separating the people and eventually culling them or removing them from the pack by any means necessary. In other words, we reduce the global population, the earth becomes more sustainable, the environment changes, and we're all happy campers. But the question is, who decides who dies and who decides who lives? The people empowered. Okay? That's why they have things like Agenda 21. This style of commentary was realized in Mein Kampf. Hitler also said that we need to have something called sifting of the human material. Those who do not follow the leadership, those who do not listen, are bad. Those who are a strain on the environment, the strain on the planet, are also bad and need to be removed. Those who are on the burden of society, they're removed as well. The agenda of sifting human material is found hidden in the policies of global warming sustainability. Jonathan Porritt, there's a name that I'm sure a few of you know about. He chairs the Sustainable Development Commission in the UK, says curbing population growth through contraception and abortion must be at the heart of policies to fight global warming. He says political leaders and green campaigners should stop dodging the issue of environmental harm caused by an expanding population. In other words, he's saying, get with the program, no more pussyfooting around. We need to start telling people, off yourselves, you're causing a problem to the planet. And some of you cause more harm than you should, and you should be wiped out. Porritt is a former chairman of the Green Party. He says the government must improve family planning, even if it means shifting money from curing illnesses to increasing contraception and abortion. Now, these policies sound familiar because a lot of these policies were basically placed in the platforms of Nazi eugenics policy. And they were implemented by Hitler in the 1930s and the 1940s, but they had their start here in America. Many of the policies were taken from post-World War II and applied to something called the Trilateral Commission. Zbigniew Brzezinski, who happens to be Barack Obama's foreign advisor, was the co-founder of the Trilateral Commission, along with David Rockefeller. This is a plan known as directives, eugenics directives, that are replaced through the Trilateral Commission. The original stated purpose of the Trilateral Commission was to create a new international economic order. Its current statement has morphed into fostering a closer cooperation among core democratic industrialized areas of the world with shared leadership responsibilities in the wider international system. What that means is that the global plan is for all countries to be reduced to third world levels. All countries will be reduced to having governments that will have the same operating costs and commerce. This means that you will be no better than anyone else. The only people that will be better are the leaders that are making the decisions for you. The agenda would conclude food and water and air. Get a load of this. Food, water, and air control. That includes the weather. And also wilderness areas where you can go and can't go. Also, it would monitor all lands and people through tracking and scientific measures such as biometrics and eugenics. Okay? So, the overall charge now of the Trilateral Commission is that, poof, they're going to start tracking you, and they're going to start figuring out whether or not you're a burden on the earth. How many people have heard the phrase carbon footprint by applause? Okay, that's another phrase. As the world becomes further into an economic chaotic situation, eugenics, the old idea that's cloaked under modern terminology such as global warming and all that, making a comeback. And during these times, you will see the resurgence and repackaging of eugenics, and you'll see poster children of eugenics, such as Suleiman and others. And basically, in the case of global warming and economic sustainability, we'll hear questions asked by the proponents like, how many people have heard this? Do you have more than 2 children in your household? How many people have heard that in China, they control how many babies are born? They do. They do this because of sustainability. They're already practicing global sustainability in countries like that. Also, is your carbon footprint putting a strain on economic stability here in the world? They already asked Australian children that. They gave them a survey. They said, what is your carbon footprint ratio? If you had one higher than was like 50, they'd say, you need to either cut back or leave the planet because you're causing too much trouble. And they did it. And it was really scary because people were complaining. They're telling my kid off himself. Here's a symbol of the recycle situation, right? Here is a symbol of the Trilateral Commission. It looks almost the same, doesn't it? If you pull apart the arrows of the Trilateral logo, look what you get. Yeah, the mark of the beast. It's kind of interesting, I think. It was just a little play. Okay, we're playing here. I don't know what you believe about the mark of the beast. I don't know what you believe about 666. But there you go. Okay? Their plan is the beast plan. The beast plan, the big boogie boogie beast plan that we talked about in Sunday school is happening. Okay? And so take a look at that and figure those things out. As the global planners hook you in with climate change and the socially engineered saving the planet from the environmental cataclysmic model, which we talked about here, we can very well see the future and urgency to justify laws requiring euthanasia, eugenic infanticide, feudal care provisions, the weeding out of those undesirable genetic propensities through the mapping of an infant genome, literally marking the genetically unfit. This is what we're going to see. We're going to start seeing the weeding out of those people. People who have predisposed outcomes. Okay? That's what we're going to be seeing in the future. Because they're already implementing these plans. I'm going to point them out to you today. Just so you know. There's a group called the Voluntary Human Extinction Movement. They believe that phasing out the human race by voluntarily ceasing to breed will allow Earth's biosphere to return to good health. Yeah, they don't have any friends, they don't have sex. That's what... They say that crowded, well, they probably do, but, you know, they don't have babies. They just, you know, whatever. They believe that if they stop breeding, then the crowded conditions on the planet will change. Okay? They believe in population controls. They believe in killing off the population, too. Ceasing to breed means ceasing to feed. We talked about this the other day. If you stop feeding people, they won't breed anymore. If they starve to death, they won't breed anymore. Those who control the food control the world. And most people who control the food have guns and bombs and tanks. And if you don't do what they say, those guns, bombs, and tanks will come to you and they'll put you out of business so they don't have to feed your ass. They control the food sources, they control the water sources, they control the air, they control everything. And when they get to that point, you have to basically say, give me what you will. I'll do anything. I just need to eat. That's what it's getting down to. And if you don't follow the direction, they'll contaminate the food. Peanut butter, yes. Peanut butter contaminant. Food that I said last week was contaminated. It was given to you by the Federal Emergency Management Agency. You know, from the farm to the fryer is a long, long trek, and we have things getting contaminated left and right if you just read the news. They went from pet food to infants to humans to grown-up people, and everyone getting sick and dying. All these crises, from global warming to food problems to the economic meltdown, can pave the way for new eugenics programs that the American people will be forced to accept in order to buy, sell, trade, do whatever they can. You will have to have biometrics. They will have to take your blood or take some part of your DNA and have it on a chip or have it somewhere so you can get into places. They're already doing it at Disneyland, for crying out loud. 35 points on your thumb and you get to go into Disneyland if you just put your thumb there. People can cash checks at Kroger's in some places because they have to use their thumbprint or they have to use some form of DNA because that's how they do it. People worry that that is the beast system. I think it has a lot to do with the fact that it's mapping your genome so they know what you're dealing with and what your propensities are for heart attack, stroke, or whatever. Let's take a look at Barack Obama's stimulus plan. Now, Republicans, of course, are myopic and stupid because all they do is they argue about whether or not their pockets are getting full. They sit there and they attack Barack Obama on his stimulus plan, but what they don't do is they don't point out the hidden thing in the stimulus plan that's got me a little frightened. And you know what, though? It is a brilliant plan. I'll tell you why it's a brilliant plan, because not only can we have universal health care in this country, but the insurance companies can't bitch about it because there are limits to what you can get in your universal health care. So if you decide you want to get on a health plan that's instigated by Barack Obama, sure, you're going to get covered, but there are conditions. And it's not Barack Obama, it's the coverage of the government. House Resolution 1EH will affect every individual in the United States. The resolution states that your medical treatments will be tracked electronically by a federal system, having electronic medical records at your fingertips. That way you can easily transfer them to other hospitals if you're en route somewhere else. Have you ever had a problem when you go to a hospital? They're saying, we wish you had your records because we could figure out what's wrong with you. Now we have to call another hospital. Then all you have to do is just insert your little card and say, here's my medical history, I'm fine. You can take a look at this. It's a good plan. It's a good plan, up until we look at the conditions here. There's a new bureaucracy they're going to want to instigate called the National Coordination of Health Information Technology, which will monitor treatments to make sure that your doctor is doing what the federal government terms appropriate and cost-effective. The goal is to reduce costs and guide your doctor's decisions. If the government is going to pay for your health care, they want to make sure that the doctors aren't over-caring you. Okay? They don't want them to go the extra mile. You go in, if you have something going on, you get it taken care of that way. Any extemporaneous stuff or anything extra, you're on your own. That's why the insurance companies aren't going to bitch about this, because the truth is, either you'll have insurance coverage that'll be basically pay everything you need, or you'll be on this stupid healthcare plan that Obama's cooked up, where you're basically going to get what you take, or you get what you're given. It's kind of like a short bus type thing. It's like, you know, you can ride the bus anywhere you go, but you can't have the the availability, the convenience of getting to where you need to go on time. Okay. If your doctor goes beyond what is proposed for adequate treatment, he or she could face penalties. So if you have an atypical condition or a genetic defect, you could be inadequately cared for. This could result in your death. The National Board of Health Information Technology can approve or reject treatments using a formula that divides the cost of the treatment by the number of years the patient is likely to benefit. Treatments for younger patients are more often approved than treatments for those who have diseases, preconditions, or those that affect the elderly. They also want to limit critical care and experimental medicine in order for universal care to be cost-effective. Every experimental procedure will have to face approval by the board. This contributes to population controls and eugenics. Just deny life-giving medical treatment to the disabled and elderly, and you will have plausible deniability in contributing to zero population growth. We were treating him the best he could. It's too bad he died. He didn't have the right health care. We gave him universal health care, but we couldn't go beyond our means, so we just let him croak. That's how they're going to do this, and that is eugenics. Denying health care is eugenics. Here's another example of how this health trap can be implemented. There's a real story out of Oregon that will make you wonder about government health plans. I'll get to you in a minute, Sarah. Okay. Let's get to this quickly. Barbara Wagner is from Oregon. She had recurrent lung cancer, and Randy Stroop had prostate cancer. Both were on Medicaid and the Oregon Health Plan. The state denied both of them treatment, but told them it would pay for their assisted suicide. Stroop, yeah, Stroop fought, he won, she didn't win, she died. There's your Oregon health plan. We'll pay for your suicide, but we won't pay for your health care. Because we calculated, we figured you're better off dead than you are alive. Go ahead.
However, I have a sneaking suspicion they'll go right on paying for in vitro fertilization.
Probably so, yeah.
Yeah, it's the encryption thing.
But then again, abortion is also a directive. So, I'll get into that in a minute. It's a eugenics
Directive of whom? Who's running the country?
It's a eugenics directive. These are part of the eugenics directives that they're proposing, and this is a part of it too, saying, hey, look, I would rather pay for your assisted suicide than pay for your health care.
Yeah, but that's logical. I mean, where childbirth...
Logical?
Where childbirth
But is it
concerned,
fair?
Where childbirth... Of course it's not fair. Where childbirth is concerned, people think differently than logic. I'm not talking about your...
But abortion's still legal, right?
We're talking about the near future here. Not
Always,
now.
it'll never change.
Yeah, I know you've always said
It'll
that.
never change.
I know
Abortion
you've
will
always said
always
that.
be legal because it's part of the eugenics directive. I'll
We
get to
can
that.
only hope.
No, it's part of the eugenics directive. They can't get rid of it because it's part of cleaning out the sifting out the... Think about it. Who gets the most abortions in the world? Not white people. Okay? I mean, I'm not sounding racist here. You look at all the statistics. Minorities always are the ones who are the victims of abortions. Great way to clean them out, huh? Great way to clean them out. It's working. Well, it is too logical, but that's how they work it. It's a eugenics practice. It's a eugenics directive. Technology and advancements in science give us the ability to also implement measures to do preventative medicines. Advancements in genetic research are on the ready to provide each parent with a blueprint of their child and even the ability to create designer children. This also gives parents a way to see if their child will be born with defects. Some parents might be pressured to abort a baby that may be considered undesirable. A new company is out there right now called Illumina. Every baby born a decade from now will have its genetic code mapped at birth. A complete DNA readout for every newborn will be technically feasible and affordable in less than 5 years. This is according to the genetic company Illumina, which is preparing to launch a whole genome mapping service within 2 years. It has already begun seeking consent from its first customers who are likely to pay anywhere between 10 grand and 20 grand for this service. It will be mandatory, you watch. Genotyping services, which examine about 2 million of the genome's 6 billion DNA letters for clues to disease, are already available to consumers for about $1,000. You can get a report for $1,000. Those with deeper pockets can have their whole genome mapped for about $100,000. And insurance will probably cover this. Insurance will cover this because then they can go back and say, hey, we noticed this genetic defect in you. We're not going to cover you. A baby's genome can be discovered at birth by a heel prick blood test similar to the one that is already used to screen for inherited diseases such as cystic fibrosis. By examining which genetic variants a person has inherited, it is possible to identify raised risks of developing an array of conditions, including cardiovascular diseases and many other cancers. Those at high risk can be screened more regularly or given drugs or dietary advice to lower their chances of becoming ill. Yeah, those are only two of the things I mentioned, cardiovascular diseases and cancers. What about genetic defects that can maybe lead to mental retardation or schizophrenia or any of these other things that they probably say, well, he has a predisposition for being schizophrenic because his parent was schizophrenic. You have a predisposed condition. I have something called tumor sclerosis. That is a genetic predisposed condition for cancer and neurofibromatosis. It can also get into the brain and cause brain cancer if I'm not careful. I've already had cancer. Okay, I've already had a bout with renal cell carcinoma. That's over, but I could have more later on in my life. And if an insurance company wanted to get pissy, they could say, we're not covering you because you have a genetic defect. We mapped your genome. You're fucked. And many of you, they say 1 in 6 people have a genetic defect that they don't tell you about. And you don't know you have it until you go to the doctor and find out one day that you have a genetic defect that creates some sort of a cancerous blood thing or whatever. You find it out later in life, you're predisposed for it, you're screwed if they find that out before you go into the hospital. Go ahead.
Well, actually, I have a genetic defect I was born with. I have been recently diagnosed with Asperger's. I don't
Okay.
know if you know what that is. It's sort of like autism light kind of thing.
Right.
And although it has caused me some problems, it's also allowed me to hyper-focus on certain subjects, and I wouldn't trade that for anything in the world.
Right, but you know what? You're a genetic defect. And probably, you know, if they decided to put you in the train and take you off, you'd probably get gassed.
Albert Einstein and Mozart and many others are considered to have had that too, and think about a worse place this world would
Sure.
be if they had
Define
that.
defect, that's got military applications.
Of course it does. Brilliant, isn't it? It has military applications. In a police state, military applications are the law. It's exactly what we're heading towards, and I've talked about that too. This type of practice, of course, the idea of mapping genome of the baby, sends alarms ringing. Now, if you're the type that believes in something called the mark of the beast, which we kind of talked about with the 666 thing, many people believe that a chip implanted in the body could very well be what is predicted in the book of the Apocalypse as the mark of the beast. However, I believe that the mark is a little bit deeper than that. The mark consists of your blood mapping in order to keep you from buying, selling, trading, eating, having sex with the people you care about, those types of things. If they figure out predispositions about homosexuality and predispositions about different sexual attitudes, sexual appetites, they can bar you. Who they go after? They went after the gypsies, they went after the homosexuals, they went after the Jews, okay? They can take your blood and figure out they can come after you. That's why this is scary. Okay? The whole genetic mapping thing, I mean, and with a name like Illumina, isn't that obvious? Like Illuminati? Or the revealing, or the unraveling, or illumination? It's exactly what it is. Yes. Thank you. Someone gets it. That's good. The secrets of the human genome being revealed through Illumina. Now, here's the truth about carbon footprints, okay? If we reduce all living things to carbon, we reduce them to 6 protons, 6 neutrons, and 6 electrons. That's 666. Okay? The number of man is 6. The number is even shown to be that of man in Taoism as well. The number of a man's society is also 6. The number of the world and the demiurge is 6. So we break down the blood in the genome to its purest form, and we determine that it is the carbon footprint of 666. Ladies and gentlemen, I have unlocked the door to what is ahead. Whether it be biblical or not, your carbon footprint is that great number, 666. 6 protons, 6 neutrons, and 6 electrons. Know your carbon footprint. Go ahead.
It should be noted that carbon comes in multiple isotopes. They don't always have 6 neutrons.
But if you break it down, yes it does. If you break it down to all living things, it's 666. It's true. I mean, there are different isotopes given variants, but 666 is the basic framework for carbon and blood and all that. I'm basically whittling it down to the minute forms, and it's 666. You look this up, I know that you know.
I would know.
Okay, cool. Okay.
Clyde,
Yes.
I know what it is.
You know this?
I know what it is.
What is it?
I can tell you off mic, but that's not it.
It isn't.
I'll tell you off mic.
Okay, you tell me off mic what it is. I think it is. I think that the blood is the key. Why the hell do they do genealogy in the Mormon church? Why the hell do they want to trace bloodlines to royalty? It's because they are freaks over blood. They are vampires. Okay? Here's something interesting. Very deep within the United States Code in Title 42 is a section number 666, cited 42 USC 666, which deals with the establishment of blood fraternity and the enforcement of child support. It sets procedures for the states that they have to follow to get massive federal block grants established under this section. Fraternity is proven through blood DNA. Now, is that a coincidence that it's labeled in the section 666? Who knows? Nice coincidence though, isn't it? Biotech companies now have screening available that you can purchase which will screen your babies to see if they're going to have Down syndrome. People are afraid of this now because they're afraid that if you have a baby with Down syndrome, chances are you're going to abort it. Now, you can applaud if you wish. If you found out if you had a baby that had Down syndrome, would you abort by applause? Wow. I heard a baby out of that. One person. But here's the idea. They're afraid that not only will it keep people or have people abort babies, but it'll also cause more, I guess you could say, discrimination against those who are mentally deficient or mentally retarded.
I thought they wanted abortion.
What's that?
I thought you said they wanted abortion.
Well, a lot of people do want abortions.
No,
But I'm talking about special interest groups that have babies that are retarded.
I was talking about special interest groups in the first place when you were saying that abortion was part of
I'm talking, for the government, abortion is a directive for eugenics.
Okay.
That's what I was explaining.
Then what does it matter what the special interest group think if this is what the government is deciding?
They can say all they want, but people are still going to get abortions. They can say all they want that they don't want these babies to be aborted, but they're going to be aborted anyway.
We were talking about legality and support, not actual happening.
Well, it's going to happen whether you like it or not, and it's going to happen whether or not these special interest groups and these rights to life are going to go, no more abortions. It's going to happen anyway.
I'm just trying to figure out which side you're on.
I'm not taking a side. I'm reporting.
No, and I'm not talking about what support for abortion. I'm talking about, you were saying, first of all, that abortion is inevitable because of eugenics, and now you're saying it's inevitable regardless of eugenics.
I'm saying that it's going to happen whether you like it or not because it's a eugenics directive. It's been a eugenics directive at the very beginning. People worry about Roe v. Wade, fuck them. It's still going to happen. It doesn't matter who we put on the Supreme Court, abortion will not be taken away. It's a directive for eugenics, it's part of the plan, it's part of the procedure, and it's a political football that has no business being in the political arena because it's never going to be taken away. Abortion will remain.
I have to say there is one condition under which it could be taken away.
And what's that?
It could serve a dual purpose. People will still get abortions, but when they catch people getting abortions, it's a reason to take them out of society and do something else with them because they can call it a crime.
I believe that they will not take abortion away. And the reason why I believe they won't is because it is a genetic directive.
But
it's a eugenics directive.
You just said they wouldn't stop having abortions anyway.
People won't stop having them. No, they'll either get it illegally or legally, depending.
So why not make it into a crime so you have a reason to arrest the poor people?
They won't, though. They'll want the poor people to eliminate, and they'll do that.
Oh no, they'll do both. They'll eliminate the babies, and they can take them and lock them up.
Something like that, I guess.
Or put them in the work camps, or
whatever they want to do. I just think that it's not going to be taken away. The Pope came out, I think it was last week, and said that eugenics policies as a quick fix to global woes are bad and we should not allow them to happen. Now, he said that genetic reductionism is not the answer to eliminating threats to the environment. If the agenda of global sustainability in the face of climate change did not include this type of thing, reproduction rights being taken away or reproduction rights reduction, then he wouldn't have said this. So I'm not lying to you when I say that global sustainability and global warming state that this is a part of their agenda. The Pope wouldn't have said anything if this wasn't a part of the agenda, eugenics, the directives. So keep that in mind. You can think I'm crazy for stating it, but that is the hidden agenda within global warming. It's global sustainability. Has nothing to do with warming, has everything to do with whether or not the planet's getting too many people and whether or not we're going to wipe them off the face of the earth. But wouldn't make the reference to it. It wasn't a big deal. It just isn't talked about here in the United States because we're afraid to talk about it. Because it's Nazi. But they're doing it anyway. Because eugenics and population reduction are hidden agendas within worldwide sustainability, it can be theorized that your carbon footprint is the mark of the beast. And we have demonstrated that its numeric property is 666. Eugenics went underground after World War II, but continued under the guises of population control, environmentalism, and proceeding with the aid of Rockefeller family wealth, it continued, rather than focus on quality control, they want to focus on quantity control. And one of the first books to tie these ideas together post-World War II was called Our Plundered Planet. It was written by Fairfield Osborne, who in 1921 served as the president of the Second International Congress of Eugenics in New York City. Yes. The best eugenics programs did not come out of Nazi Germany, they came out of the United States of America. Yes, some people know that. And they're ready to be implemented again. Yeah, he just timed it wrong. This is the Times Online from England. 2 children should be the limit, says the Green Guru. Porritt once again has said, 2 children to every household, no more, no less. To sustain the planet, it should be implemented. These policies should be implemented to keep worldwide sustainability. The economic hardship that the world faces is also creating a climate favorable to population eugenics policies. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi recently stated that family planning services are a must during these economic times. She says family planning services reduce costs, they reduce They reduce costs. And the states are terrible fiscal budget crisis now, and part of what we do for children's health, education, and some of those elements are to help the states meet their financial needs. One of those initiatives you mentioned, contraception, will reduce costs to the states and to the federal government. Of course, contraception is a directive, a eugenics directive. Margaret Sanger, Planned Parenthood, was first a eugenics operation. Okay? And it was about abortion, it was about, implementing contraception. Now, you notice I'm not taking a stand here in any of this, so you can make up your mind as to what's bad and what's good. Because quite frankly, my politics with regard to abortion are my own. My politics with regard to genetics are my own. Okay? How I feel about eugenics and genetics. What I'm trying to tell you is I'm telling you the slippery slope we're going down. One of the President Obama's first decisions after being sworn into office included the reversal of Ronald Reagan's ban on United States funding of international family planning groups to provide abortion services. The issue of abortion has been consistently used as a political football to maintain the theater of two-party system, but the practice remains at the heart of the Rockefeller-sponsored population control directive. Sarah, that is directed to you. What? It is part of the Rockefeller-sponsored population control system, abortion. It is a political football that has no validity because it will always remain because it is a directive for eugenics.
But it won't necessarily.
It will. It will remain. I don't know why you're arguing. It's never going away. Roe v. Wade will never be overturned.
Abortion will not go away. Roe v. Wade may go away.
No, it won't.
It may.
It won't.
It would be just.
It won't go away. Has it gone away in the past 18 years when we told it was going to go away? No.
It would provide just as much controversy gone as there.
It's not going away.
Okay.
I promise you. If it goes away, I will take my words back. But we have seen election after election. We've seen feminist after feminist cry and whine and scream and say this is the most important election of our lifetimes because of the abortion issue. Fuck you. It'll always be there.
Fuck you too.
It'll always be there.
We'll see.
Yeah, it will. It's part of eugenics.
It's part of the programming.
It's part of the programming, yes.
Your programming is running loops, and you just don't see it.
It'll always be there.
Your programming. They gave you that programming.
Get on the microphone if you're going to argue with him. Jesus.
Hey, Mr. I love children and I want to marry the Octomom. You should fucking talk about programming.
She's mad.
Well, what do you got to say to that?
What?
Not mad, just crazy.
Your programming.
My programming.
You care.
About
I know
what?
you care.
My program about what, Eric?
You should have your own cremation of
Could you
care.
please
like
tell me what it is
See,
you're
they
saying I
have a
care?
cremation of care
Hey!
ceremony.
Tell me,
Get rid of all care.
Tell
this
me
is
what-
what separates them from you.
Tell me what it is you're saying I care about.
Because you care.
About what?
Abortions.
Just because I care about abortion doesn't mean...
Your programming is not like yours.
All right, then, which way do I go on abortions, Eric?
I keep my opinion myself.
No, which way do
Right?
I go? Which way are you saying I go?
What you tell me?
No, I asked you.
Tell me.
I asked you.
Tell me. You're for abortions, aren't you? Right? No, you're not. Right?
You don't know, Eric. You have no idea if I care
You
or
can't
not.
say it, can you? You're afraid.
Of course
you are afraid.
Afraid of what? I
You're
don't know.
afraid. Your programming is holding you back. Say it.
I've reached menopause. Fuck you. I don't give a
Say
shit.
it.
Okay, that settles it right there. Give him a round of applause. We got to move on.
It's none of your business how I feel about abortion, Eric.
We're going to move on. Abortion gets people pissed off, obviously.
I'm not pissed. I'm enjoying the fuck out of it.
Okay, the next step. Euthanasia is also a eugenics directive. I got to move on. We're running out of time. Sorry. In 2007, the United Kingdom's Ministry of Defense released the DC Global Strategic Trends Program 2007 to 2036 report. The report outlines a grim economic future for middle-class rebellion amidst falling standards of living, brain chip implantation, and other forecasts. One scenario in particular states that youth in Western societies can see the growing elderly population as a burden, and that opens the doorway to basically killing them off. Declining youth populations in Western societies can become increasingly dissatisfied with their economically burdensome baby boomer elders, among whom much of society's wealth would be concentrated. Resentful in a generation whose values appear to be out of step with tightening resource constraints, the young might seek a return to an order provided by more conservative values and structures. This could lead to a civic renaissance with strict penalties for those failing to fulfill their social obligations It might also open the way to policies which permit euthanasia as a means to reduce the burden of care for the elderly. People are laughing. Yes, there you go. Soylent Green is people. It's made from people! Okay. Woohoo! Assisted suicide is now moving into Washington State. They're preparing for it, and March you can also get euthanized if you wish. That's just one step closer to the eugenics agenda. Withholding medical treatment is also a directive of eugenics. Beginning in 1940, thousands of Germans taken from old age homes, mental institutions, and other custodial facilities were systematically gassed. Between 50,000 and 100,000 were eventually killed. A similar example was the Terry Schiavo case, where she was disconnected from life support after being in a progressive vegetative state. Schiavo was literally starved to death. She also was a great poster child for the argument for the practice of eugenics directives. Schiavo is Italian for slave, which I thought was interesting as well. Barack Obama stated in the debates that one of his biggest mistakes in the Senate was that he should have stayed in the Senate and fought for making sure that Terry's parents couldn't take her case to the federal court to save her life. That was one of his biggest regrets, is he says, I should have fought to keep them from taking it to the Supreme Court to save her life. I personally thought that she was not with us. But I don't know how I'd feel about knowing that I was responsible for starving my daughter to death. That's always a hard decision to make. Those types of things are hard. Dying with dignity is always a hard decision. Over-medicating a patient is a eugenics directive. How many people have heard that more people die from being over-medicated and with pills being mixed than anything else? Plausible deniability there. Doctor didn't know that. Doctor didn't know you were taking NyQuil with your Vicodin. Doctor didn't know that you were going to die from taking NyQuil with your Vicodin. You died. So what? Just one less patient you have to treat and one less burden on worldwide sustainability. Between the years of 1990 and 2000, over 569 children were hospitalized, and 38 of them were life-threatening hospitalizations, and 186 died from antidepressant drug toxicity. Many experimental psychotropic drugs have led to suicides in young people, another way we call the society. Go ahead, Amy, you're right on the microphone.
I just want to say, personally, I was a pharmacy technician for 2.5 years, and I saved 6 people's lives because doctors would not call back. I had to call them. 6 people could have died.
So doctors would not call back?
No, they would not keep in contact with our records. And Oregon Health Plan fucked everything up, and I saved 6 people's lives, and that's why I had to quit, because I couldn't understand why people couldn't talk to each other.
So are you basically backing up what I'm saying about these health plans having flaws and that they could kill you?
Oh, fuck yeah.
Okay, good. See? Thank you, Amy. Give her a hand. Yeah. I'm not just talking out of my ass here. These are directives. These are eugenics directives, and they're brought from the high-ups. Mapping a baby's genome is also a eugenics directive. The prospect of designing our children and future generations is an issue that values in policy. A dystopian future along the lines of Gattaca, that movie Gattaca, or Brave New World, would overturn America's notions of equality, opportunity, and human rights. Mapping a baby's genome could kill its potential by placing it in a propensity class. The idea of race, of superior humans, and having genetic defectives as slaves or working class would be the norm. The idea of eliminating genetic defectives could win out in a worldwide sustainability. They're pushing the sustainability that could win out in the argument. They'd say, look, it's causing too much problem for the earth, this would have changed and we would have eliminated this person before they came into power. It could weed out those with useless carbon footprints. It would be a project to purify the world's gene pool. That's the future. What do you have to say there? Okay, thank you. Remember the carbon footprint of man, of living things. 6 protons, 6 neutrons, and 6 electrons. Remember that carbon footprint. Remember that being the key. If you want to follow apocalyptic stuff, there it is right there for you. Causes all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and slave, to receive a mark on their right hand or on their foreheads, and no one may buy, sell, or do anything except one who has the mark of the name of the beast or the number of his name. Here is wisdom. Let those who have understanding know the mark of the beast. It's the mark of a man, which is 603 score and 6. The blood of man is 666. The carbon footprint of man is 666. This is the key. It's the key to opening the door to some sort of prophetic or perhaps even fulfilled prophecy, or it's a blueprint set aside by those in power to get you to think, if you can just figure out the details. The growing economic crisis, the numerous other crises, both real and manufactured, will be held as an example of the need for a new army of social workers and bureaucracy to manage the affairs of average men and women. Among all of the other proposals that the elite are throwing at us to fix these problems, which is world governance, the control of food sources and water, the proposal for global sustainability, and other population control agendas such as Agenda 21, could all become reality, and they can become reality very soon. And they are reality, as you can see, as I pointed out. The Pope has said no types of eugenics. Many people are warning that global sustainability are eugenics, and that this is happening now. The needs of the superior humans would outweigh those who are genetically defective. Blah, blah, blah over here, the genetic defect, he will probably end up being trampled under by tanks. Yes. That's what I get for heckling. Having your carbon footprint mapped out for you, in my opinion, leads to the Genome 666 problem. It's a project to purify the globe and to remove all imperfect things. That has been the agenda for both conservative and liberal. There are people among us who we don't feel are genetically worthy, mentally worthy, emotionally worthy, or otherwise. Sometimes in this world, you've all heard about this. Children feel like they're not measuring up. They're either too thin, they're too fat, they're too ugly, they don't wear the right clothes. They can't do the things that they want to do. They can't fit in unless they do these things. And even when they don't do it right, they don't measure up. But there's one thing that children can do very well. They can kill and they can die very well. It's very easy to do, it's very easy to die, and it's very easy to eliminate oneself from the planet. And when people are being told to do it, they feel like they don't belong. And when they're at the end of their rope and they lose all hope, they will end up doing it. And that's another way they do it. Another directive is to have you lose all hope. To have you fall out of love, to have you fall out of that support system, have you feel like you don't matter anymore. That is why it's important to realize that there are things other than your 666 blood count, and that is that you are a human soul and that you are inside this 666 blood count. And the way that you go beyond that is to realize there is a transcendency, there's something beyond what we are physically. And that is we are souls in need of love, nourishment, and nurturing. The only thing that I can do for you tonight, outside of all this genetic bullshit, is to tell you that it's important to look upon the soul of a human being. It's as easy as that. Look at what they do contribute, even if they have the slightest defect. Because the defect is something that's physical. What's inside is what matters. Look upon the heart, look into the eyes, and try to understand that we're all in this together. And if we start judging each other by the color of our skin, our ethnicity, if we start judging each other by whether or not we agree with each other or what have you, we're all going to end up polarizing, and it's never, ever going to work out. The puzzle pieces are easy to put together and to be congruent and to be a group and to work together for a cause, and that is to survive, which is what we're going to be looking to before 2012, is survival. The only way we can do this is to get to know one another and to learn to understand one another. So that is the message tonight. Is above all the genetic coding, above all the 666 crap, above all the project purification dystopia, I want you to know that we are all beyond that and that we can come above that and win. The future is certain, and that is if we keep informed and keep our ear to the ground and keep our minds where they can't get at them. If we keep them at ground zero, we'll be successful. I'm Clyde Lewis, Ground Zero Lounge. Good night. Karaoke from Hell's up next. Thank you all.